Hello and welcome to the Fire in the Belly show. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by the Stacey Vanthuyne. Good morning to you. Yes, we are. Good morning. How are we going?
We are in the morning. Good morning, Pete. It's all the way from Canada to Ireland. I say we're meeting across the oceans. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Listen, absolutely awesome to have you on. It's great to meet new people. And, so I've been following you on social media. You're quite active on social media, which is fantastic. So do you want to give us a bit of a background? Who are you? What do you do? And where are you from?
Sure. It's a loaded question, but I'll do the best I can here. So my name is Stacey Vanthuyne. I'm actually from Canada, born and raised, a few different provinces, but primarily always in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So a prairie girl who, had big dreams growing up. And for a long time, though, was told to just kind of live within the boundaries of what the people around me were doing and saying and being. And I conformed to that. And throughout the last 5 years of my life, I've realized that my fire in my soul, ironically enough, was starting to dim. And, before that happened, I wanted to make sure I stopped that. So I took a more proactive look at my life and started to realize what is important to me. And, I had a family. And although my girls are my world and my why, so am I. And I had to start realizing that it was important to dream again. And so what I do now is help others elevate and amplify their lives to realize that we are greater than our past or our current circumstances. And that if you have that craving inside to be more, listen to it and take action in becoming the best that you can be. And that may mean breaking through what is typical or what is normal, but that doesn't mean that it's not impossible. So I like to help inspire people and empower people to realize and recognize the infinite potential that lives within ourselves.
Wow, I love that. Oh, the energy and the power behind that's fantastic. Do you think that would that be a good version, a good definition of fire in the belly to, to inspire people to find the best version of themselves?
Absolutely. I think that here's the thing. I think that it is for you to decide and for us to stop living a life and saying things that we think people around us want us to say, but really speaking from that authenticity place, that authentic core, our true self, our true purpose, and just being and let it out however. So for me, fire in the belly means to really live a life of truth and one of authenticity and being vulnerable and courageous and in finding that fulfillment and testing the boundaries of where you are and where you can go. But there's so many different versions of it that I'm sure this is where your job gets really exciting because you get to hear that from each individual. And I think that authenticity of each person is what makes the world just so incredible. And where we have to get to is to realize and just come with an open mind and be ready to listen and understand. And in doing so, really be able to create and collaborate with people together.
Wow.
It drives me.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it comes across, which is great. I mean, that's part of it is being able to communicate your passion and communicate your thing. But I mean, you mentioned sort of 5 years ago, obviously there was a different part in your life. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, did you have fire in your belly then, or was it just dimming down? What happened?
Yeah, again, I've always felt like I had fire in my belly, and probably too much so. And so that, or what I was told. So, I've always been told too passionate, too much, calm down, to fit in here. You just need to, actually one person said this to me, it always sticks. And I know that they meant it with really kindness, but it was something of like, Stacey, you are a sparkling diamond. We just need to to massage some of the edges, to make it like a little bit more clean to fit into this world. And I was in corporate world for the longest time. You know, I'm in people leadership and change management, and I love that. And I think that why people wanted to work with me is because I was authentic and I believed in them and I cared. But sometimes that passion, I almost started to believe that it was my greatest strength and my greatest Achilles heel. And yet, and then I started to listen to that, I guess. And so then I started to be more cognizant of how I was coming across and making sure that I was fitting into situations versus always letting my light shine. And so I think that that is kind of where the dimness started. And so it was probably greater than that. But in the last 5 years, where that really changed was I was married. I wasn't happy in my marriage. And yet I felt like I was stuck in some ways. And I felt at that time that I was, you know, like a house of cards, and that I was the base of that stack of cards. And I got to a point where I felt that I was, you know, the one that was responsible for the home, responsible for the finances, responsible for the kids, going out. Don't get me wrong, my ex was a kind, caring man, but he wasn't a partner for me. And in doing so, I was afraid to let my life continue that way, and being a mother of 2 girls, see that was how a relationship was to be defined, that we were just, you know, literally roommates versus 2 people passionately in love. And if I lost the passion in my relationship with the people that I'm supposed to care about most, then what was stopping that passion from leaving all aspects of my life? So I realized in that moment that I had to live differently, and I didn't want the cards to fall down, and made a choice in that moment to let my fire burn, to not be apologetic for having this energy and this passion in myself. I, you know, really just dove into personal development and realizing that what I was trying to hide and the person that I was afraid of being sometimes because of that passion was actually my gift, and that people were drawn to my energy. So the last thing I wanted to do was start to hide that. And so whether or not I needed to, you know, dim my light for certain areas, instead of doing that, just realize that that wasn't then my place to be. And then I had to like forge my own path. And I think that that is really where my message is right now, is that so often in life, we conform to our outside world. We let our outside world control who we are. And I've realized now in the importance of letting our light and our gifts shine so that we can create our external world and be more and give more to, you know, the people that we love. And in doing so, as we love ourselves more, we become that better mother, that better partner, that better friend, that better, you know, giver for the things that we care for. So that's a really long-winded way around of going around, but really what happened was I just realized I wasn't being my authentic self, and I wanted to get back to her because I realized how special she was, and the person I was becoming wasn't a person that I felt like I wanted to be the role model for my daughters.
What age was that girl? When did that split first happen? And have you got back with her, or have you got back to your true self? Is that gap closed?
The gap is closing. And I think that the more I increase my awareness and understanding of myself, the closer it gets. You know, what I realized is that when we have that alignment between our mind, body, and soul, then we're one. And the moment that we feel like we need something, or that we're not enough, that means that there's a lack within ourselves, a separation between ourselves and our true essence of ourselves. And so, you know, it's something that I progressively work on each and every day. But I would say definitely the gap is closing, and I'm being able to step into my true authentic self. And a lot of that is just, I think, a little bit of work in progress. And the more that I learn, the more that I get. Like, what I realize is that it's never a destination. It's a journey. And this journey is in who I'm becoming. And that, you know, is something I hope to share with people, and for them to realize, is that it's important for us to have goals. But we aren't successful when we hit that goal. We're successful when we make a decision to move and to take progressive action each and every day in becoming. And we are successful when we have the ability to overcome any obstacle or challenge, and not see it as a failure, but as an opportunity to learn and to become more. And in doing so, really start to create and be that authentic self, and recognize that that takes vulnerability and courage. And when you do that, I think it just all continues to build in who we become in our journey.
It's always interesting, isn't it, that sort of ability to go back to, or be your true authentic self. It's the rawest version. It's the most naked version of ourselves, but also it's the truest version. So it's always an interesting mix for people, isn't it, to get to that point? Because how often do we seek outside of ourselves? And that's part of the issue, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that we're just been so used to letting other people define us, because we say that we're not, right? Like, we have who we are in our conscious mind, and we have who we are in our subconscious mind. And it's our subconscious mind, the paradigms that we have there, our self-image of who we are there, that control our feelings, that ultimately control our actions, that control our results. So when we say that back to, like, we can say in our conscious mind, we are this person, but unless we really believe that on a subconscious level, our results won't show it. So for many of us, I believe, we are not necessarily people pleasers, although some people may say that they're, or like admit that they are those people pleasers, but, you know, fitting in is important to people. And we feel that sometimes we have to fit in by conforming to those regular norms. But I think what's important is that when we can break free of that and be our authentic self, then more of the things that we love will be attracted to us, because we've raised our frequency and our vibration to that of which we most desire. But until we really recognize that, then we live this life that is just, you know, conforming to others around us. And, you know, I think that that is the opposite of courage. Isn't not that you're not courageous, but that you conform and you don't try to really step outside. Or when you do, if it's like being ridiculed, or it doesn't seem like you're being a part of a group, then it sometimes causes us to shy away from that, because we're not as confident in really, oh, what does this mean? It's in the unknown. So often, you know, we live on a hamster wheel. We want different results, but we really don't understand sometimes what's controlling our results. And what's controlling our results is that image and the habitual way of thinking we have that's in our subconscious mind. So we live each day in our familiar past, and we let our past or our current circumstances control our future. So if we're living in this familiar past, then we have predictable future. So how can we get something new when both of those places are known to us? So it's really about, in my opinion, is becoming super present and getting into that unknown place, which is this present moment, and being able to create and stay there. But that takes a lot of courage and breaking through of the, you know, conformity of regular life, which is probably why there's only, you know, 5% of the people that's doing really what they love every day, and 95%, you know, kind of, what is it, wishing positively but thinking negatively.
And that's a scary statistic, right? You know, that sort of level of those that are doing what they love to do, you know, get to do, have to, not have to, but, and then there's those that are doing what they have to do to pay for what they want to do, or maybe they don't even know what they want, right? So there's those that know what they want and those that don't. And you know, how do you feel about that? I mean, that sort of split.
Yeah, I hear you on that, because here, even when I work with people, when I coach people, one of the first questions I'll ask them is, what do you want? In fact, I would say, you know, going back to that crux for me, that 5 years ago, somebody asked me that, like, what is it that you want? And all I could think of at that time of was, well, I want my girls to be productive members of society. I want them to live a happy life. I want to be able to, you know, save for their schooling and save for my retirement, you know, go on the occasional trip and, you know, topping out at 45, right? Like, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, that's about what you want for your kids, but what do you want for you? And it made me pause. And so when you ask me, what do people want? I think we're afraid of admitting what we want, because we're afraid that we will want something that we can't achieve. And yet the reality is, if we really understand ourselves and the infinite power that lies within, we will never want more than what we can achieve. That is when we start to listen to our intuition. So often, again, we let our current circumstance or our past determine what we can achieve and what we should want. So I believe people want more. I mean, we are spiritual beings, we have an intellect, and we live in a physical body. I mean, energy flows, everything is made of energy, and energy is for fuller expansion and expression. So we've been trained or programmed to believe that wanting more is being selfish, that, you know, we should be happy with what we have, and that, you know, look at yourself compared to somebody else. You're lucky that you have this. And no doubt you should be blessed and feel grateful for what you have. Be grateful. I mean, that's the foundation of everything. But better is a good word. You know, wanting more isn't being selfish. By becoming more, you can give more. And so I believe that people do know what they want, but they're afraid of admitting it to themselves in fear of not being able to attain. But if they really understood themselves more, if they took the time, you know, to get a coach or to have people or be around like-minded people, successful people that have attained what they want, they will see that if you can do it, so can I. And so I believe that the people that do live their life with what they want just have come to that understanding and are committed to themselves, and realize that those challenges or those opportunities to fail, quote unquote, are only opportunities to learn. So they continue to push forward.
What do you truly?
I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, I cut across you there. I was going to say, what do you truly desire?
I truly desire a fulfilled life, one where I'm living in a state of joyful expectation, where I can listen to my intuition and trust and believe in myself. You know, we've been programmed to live from our external senses, from what we hear, taste, smell, touch, and feel. And yet we were born with this magic in our mind, with these higher faculties of imagination, intuition, perception, reason, will, and memory. And for me, what I desire is building up those faculties to truly live an authentic life from the inside out, where I am the creator of my circumstances, my conditions, and my environment. And in doing so, I've created a life of fulfillment and joy. I recognize that I'm not going to have every day go perfect, but I see that as only opportunities to grow. You know, it's like realizing your worth. And one of my affirmations that I write every day, you know, is, you know, I am so happy and grateful now that I realize I am worthy. All that I desire desires me. You know, the sunny shore of my ideal awaits my coming. and recognizing that my goal in this, or my piece that I play, is understanding where that destination is, what my goal is, but what I have to release and let go and believe and have unwavering faith is that the how will be shown to me, that I don't need to know the how to achieve something great. And, and back to when people want something, I think that that's another thing that we've been programmed into believing, is that if we don't know how to get it, then it's not for us. But we need to realize that as long as we know, we need to know two things: where we are today and where we want to go. And when we can align our feelings and get to the same frequency of that which we most desire and live from that state, then that's when, the laws of the universe start to come into play, where the law of vibration, which is a primary law to the law of attraction, will start to come into place. And so when you can get up onto the frequency of that which you most desire, then, people and places and things that you need to achieve your goal will start to attract to you, and the how will be shown. So that's what I desire, is finding that within myself, but then even more so in fulfillment for me is sharing that message with others. And I just want to see others too strive and crave more and be more and believe in themselves. It just honestly, it fills my heart.
That's super interesting. I mean, it feels like a tightrope between having, what you desire versus what you want. It almost sounds like there's potentially negative energy and positive energy all thrown in together. Needs versus wants versus loves versus passions. And I'm curious here, how do you maintain a good energy without closing down the opportunities, as you say, the sort of universal opportunities, laws of attraction, but leave yourself open to what's possible and drive yourself forward at the same time? So I know I've just hit you with about 6 questions there, but I'm curious, because you're on a bit of a flow here, and I love the state that you're in.
That's all right. I was going to say, it's I've hit you with 6 probably ideas in one question, so you might as well just ask all the 6 questions now. But here's the thing: I think that when we come from a place of need, that's from a lack of scarcity, right? And we have to get to an abundance mindset to realize that there is more than enough for all of us. And that's where we really start each day with gratitude, because whatever we look for, we will find. So when we can start looking for the good, even in those challenging times, we start to realize, the lessons, in that we need to take responsibility for what happens to us. So as far as, finding this balance, I think the balance comes from recognizing that in order to achieve what you desire, you need to come from a place of abundance, that we need, and I hate using that word, but I mean, we have to release that sense of lack and that scarcity mindset, because as soon as we say I need, it's almost again showing that we don't have. And yet nothing is created or destroyed. Everything is already here. It's up to us to increase our levels of awareness to recognize. So when we come from this place of need, that's from a place of lack or scarcity. When we come from a place of desire, well, desire is the trigger to get you to where you want to go. Because, I mentioned about you need to know where you are and where you want to go. And when you have that goal, when you have that want of where you want to go, there's 2 questions that one must answer for themselves. And now those 2 questions are, am I willing and am I able? Now, if we believe that we are filled with infinite potential, then that takes care of the answer of, am I able? You are definitely able. The real question is, am I willing? Am I willing to do what is ever necessary? Whether that be accept ridicule, go against the grain of what you know, create a different path for yourself. But am I willing to do what is ever necessary to achieve my goal? When you can answer yes to both of those questions, then you've taken yourself from just fantasizing about something, just starting the creative process, which will take you from fantasy to theory to fact. And, we have to recognize that there is more to life than what we can see. So if we can see ourselves at that end state, then we already are. And that's where that need dissipates, because we recognize we are and we live from that end. And when we consistently affirm to ourselves, when we visualize for ourselves that we are and we've achieved that goal, that takes that thought from the conscious mind, from our thinking mind, and it impresses it down into our subconscious mind. And again, it's our subconscious mind, our emotional mind, that will drive our feelings that will set up our body in a certain vibration, and a vibration that takes us to the action that gets us to results. Our body is an instrument of our mind. So we really have to grasp onto this, that thoughts become things. And so if you want a different life, if you want something more, then we need to start thinking there and believing in that. And when you can have that unwavering faith and belief in yourself that says, yeah, I am willing and I am able, then it's only a matter of time before we take the invisible to the visible.
Wow. I mean, I know the likes of, there's a number, I suppose, of texts, but, it's that asking, believe, receive, right? It's that, be clear on what you want, believe it. Because there's so many people say, listen, I'd love $1 million, or I want $1 million.
Yeah.
But there's no belief or faith behind it, right? They're just going, yeah, I mean, I would love to win the lottery and whatever, but I don't back it up with anything, right? And that's a key thing for people.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing is to first, to conceive the idea, to fantasize. And here's I'll take us back to that magic in our mind. So again, we need to use our imagination to create, to see it, to see what we want in big, bright, bold colors, to live there in our fantasy. Again, so often, I mean, we used to do that as children. We see our kids doing it all the time. And yet, as soon as we, school doesn't teach us about our mental faculties. They start to teach us about living from the external world versus creating our external world. And, this isn't a sign against education. I love education. I think the beginning of everything is study. But this is just as important. We're not told about our mental faculties, and we're not told how to make a decision. That's why so many times we ask other people what to do versus, acting from our own self, believing in our own intuition, following our gut. And we're also not taught on how to earn money. I mean, I think it's something like 3% of the wealthy make 97% of all the money or something. And so, I mean, why? Why? And there's more, when you say, I want to earn money, is energy. That's the other thing that we have to realize. It flows through us. And when we come from a lack or scarcity place, then whatever we believe, then that will happen. So if we believe that money is hard to earn, if we believe money doesn't grow on trees, if we believe that the only way of becoming successful is by working harder, then, the universe is like a genie. It's like, your wish is my command. So that's what happens. But if we can believe that there is another way, that it's a different perception, that money flows easily through me, that, you earn it, and in earning it, you give back, then it just opens your world to new possibilities. And, one of my mentors, Bob Proctor, he tells a story that was told by one of his mentors around this, what's the book called? I have it. You Too. It's by Price Pritchard. And he talks about how this fly, and we can all empathize with this story, I'm sure, is that, you know, you'll see a fly and it's trying its damnedest to get outside, and it's just hitting the window. And no matter how hard that fly tries, it will never get through the screen or the window. And so it just kind of dies there. And yet, if that fly would just like turn around, you'd see the doors wide open. So for a mere like 10 seconds of flying, he'd be free. And that's so often what we start to believe in our own lives, that if I only try harder, if I only do it more, then, you know, I'll get more. But the reality is that trying harder isn't always the answer. It's about, you know, taking some steps back and reevaluating where you are, looking at things from a different perception, coming from it with a different mindset, you know, engaging things that you haven't maybe as much. I mean, anybody that's in debt should never focus and have an affirmation of, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm not in debt, because where we focus is where our energy flows. So it's more about, I am so happy and grateful I live in a state of abundance. I am so happy and grateful that I have achieved financial freedom. And so I really think, again, that it's just about retraining our minds to looking at things from the positive side versus initially looking at it from the negative. And that goes back to you kind of where you're saying with the faith, is that to do that, though, you have to have unwavering faith, but it's unwavering faith in your ability and yourself. And that realizing we can't micromanage all of our goals. So we can't do the time. And I think that's what happens is people just like, oh, well, I've been wishing for this and taking these actions for the last month. It hasn't come to fruition. So it doesn't work. But that's, you know, and the universe, I just love this, is this like, if you just wait it one more day, right? What is it? Thomas Edison tried 10,000 times to create light. If he would have stopped on 9,099, like what would have happened, you know? And so realizing that the equation for achieving what we want from life is easy. We need to use our imagination, create that picture of where we want to go, you know, decide if you're willing and if you're able. And when you decide that, it's an easy equation. The challenging part is maintaining your discipline and being committed to it. And, you know, another one of my favorite mentors is David Meltzer. And he says, you know, being persistent in the pursuit of your passion. You know, you just don't let up. Don't get distracted by the external world. Don't let that impact you. If you feel it, you be it. And when you can be it and live from there, it will become. I just get jazzed by it. Sorry, Pete. I just like, no, actually, I'm not sorry. I think it's important that we realize this because we have the power. And, you know, and I know that people are like, oh, okay, Stacey, like, sure. But let's get to a place where we stop letting others steal our dreams. You know, we stop living our life for others and start living it for ourselves, and realize when our cup is full, when we feel fulfilled, then we can be so much more to everybody else. And that by not being our highest self is actually very selfish. That's the selfishness, because you are not allowing the world and the people around you to see you at your best self. And in that, we all lose.
Are you where you're supposed to be today?
What do you think?
Maybe a slightly loaded question, but
I'm on the journey of where I'm supposed to be. I know that I am supposed to be sharing this message. I know that I'm meant to make a dent in this world, into helping inspire, empower people to amplify and elevate their lives. And, you know, when I was in my corporate career, that's what I love to do is, you know, develop people and help them. And whether it was actually with people or the organizations, I mean, my message can be in both business and for individuals, right? Because even all companies have a paradigm as well. It's their company culture. So it's in recognizing that we have this gap between what we know and what we do. So how can we close that gap, and whether that be as an individual or within the company? And so I'm on the path of where I need to be in creating change and helping people better understand how it is to get to what they want and to become their most abundant self. But I'll never be there, because again, I don't think it's a destination, it's a continuous journey. It's like climbing a mountain, it's like, oh, I want to get there. And you get to that place and you're like, hey, view is awesome here. I want to actually get there. And so you just continually push, become, reinvent every day to become more.
What did mini Stacey want?
I'm sorry?
What did mini Stacey want? What did you want to be when she grew up? What was her plans?
You take me back a long time. But it's funny, lately I've had this picture been coming across my mind. We think in images, right? And there's this image that I remember of me as a child coming out of the tub with like a towel wrapped around here, one on my head, and sunglasses, and just like walking like I own the place. There's some type of movie star from there. And
what age would you have been?
I think, but I think that's it, is that I want to become the star of my life. I'll not be the star of other people's life, but the star of my life, so that I'm the creator, and I can take full responsibility of what happens within my life, and know that if I'm not happy with it, that I have the ability to change it. So I think, in a small way, I don't think that mini Stacey knew that, or maybe she did. But that is really what I want to be, and I want other people to be, is to stop being an extra in their life and to become the star, and to realize that, that's not an ego place. That's not being overconfident, or some people think that because you're confident that you have an ego. But when you realize that when you are your highest self, you're actually one with our creator. You're one with spirit. So when you can come from that place, then, that's as pure as it can be, because that in being your best self, you're helping to improve the world for others. And it's not coming from an ego place.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it funny how, children almost seem to pick this up more, naturally, but it's at some point we go off on this little journey, and there's that gap between who we are and who we truly are, and who other people think we are and who we think we should be. So we go on this journey until you get to this point of saying, hold on, I need to get back to me, right?
Yeah. And I think that goes back to how we're being conditioned, right? Because kids just live in the moment. And if we as adults could get back to that, we'd realize that we are the creators. Kids live in the moment. They use their imagination. They ask, right, for things. So often we're trained not to ask for things anymore. We're afraid of using our own voice at times, and in fear of what others may think, or that we might offend. And so we start, like I said, letting our external world control who we are and what we want to attain. Where children, they're just in that moment. And if anything, that's where we need to get back to, is creating and imagining and, trusting ourselves and just going for it, and knowing our self-worth. And we were born with that. So that's, I have a coaching program, which is around becoming you. And it's more about becoming, like re-becoming you, right? Like letting go of the layers that have been put onto us through different experiences in our lives, and stop letting those negative experiences control who we are and what we think we can do. But instead of that, refocusing on the positive. Stop playing the records that are holding us back, because, you know, we get into this record of sharing our sad story, of sharing our, you know, the times that things haven't gone right for us. And when we do that, again, we're just continuing to impress those thoughts, those feelings into our subconscious mind. And when we do that, then we're going to replay it. So it's really about breaking that habit of being yourself. You know, you need to change you to change you. And that means even changing the thoughts. And that's really where it comes down to. But so often we try to change by changing the symptoms. You know, we look at the balance sheet, we look at a kid's report card, and we let those define us. And we don't have to do that. That's just one result. But now look at where the primary cause of that result is, and that's in our minds. And it starts with what we think. So if we can recognize this, then we can think differently. And when we are persistent in that new way of thinking, and we start to fall in love with that idea, that we attach an elevated emotion to that intention of what we want, then the results will change. They will come to be what it is that's in our minds. So, you know, that's where as a coach, I really am more than just a motivational speaker. It's about understanding what is the primary cause of your results. And when you can understand what the primary cause is and change that, then you can get permanent results. It's like our paradigms, and paradigms, just for anyone who's like, why she keeps referring to this word, it's just our habitual way of thinking. It's our habits. And our habits, as well as our self-image, are in our subconscious mind. And our subconscious, our self-image is almost like a thermostat. It dictates what we will achieve in life. You know, it's been said, you know, you will never outperform that of your self-image. So when you read a good book, or you go to a good speaker and they excite you and they motivate you for a bit, you'll see this, you know, this bump in your results, and you'll be there. But if you don't continue to impress that feeling and continue to reinforce and visualize and be there, eventually that will just go back down to where you were. So if you were a salesperson and you were used to selling 100,000 widgets a year, and like I said, you go and you're motivated, you may have a month where you sell more. But by the end of the year, if you're not cognizant on how that came to be and recognizing that it's a product of your thinking, then at the end of the year, you'll still have 100,000 sold 100,000 widgets. Same as if you have a month where it's low, because you've defined yourself as 100,000. And then this is where we start to believe that we can only get incremental change, because we're looking at, well, how do I change 100,000 to 110? Well, here's the thing. Change the way you think about that 100, and you can actually make it 500,000. And that's where we start, like, life gets exciting, because we start to realize there is a such thing as quantum leaps. And we live from there. And that is super exciting to see people. But it comes down to, when people have quantum leaps, it's because they understand the power that lies within their minds and the importance of impressing that on your subconscious mind.
Have you come to grips with the power in your mind and also what you're capable of?
I recognize that, and I build the image, and I see where I am. For me, I'll be just completely authentic and vulnerable. It was hard for me to admit where I am. You know, I never wanted to think that I had an issue with my self-confidence, or that my self-image was not enough. But what I came to realize is that if I want more from life, if I want new goals, if I want a different outcome, then I do have to be truthful and vulnerable about where I am. You know, what is it that I do believe about myself? Like, do I think I'm worthy enough? Am I afraid of failure? You know, am I afraid of what other people will think? And, you know, the truth is I am. I mean, I'm overcoming that. But I had a strong self-image and self-confidence to create the life that I currently have. But if I want more, I need to up-level my way of thinking. I need to recognize all the things that I'm saying, you know, and really live from that state, to realize that to truly live a life of fulfillment, I need to, or I have to feel worthy and recognize that I too am not a product of my past or my current circumstances, that there is more with me. So, I mean, I have a really strong morning routine, Pete, around, you know, getting to there. So, you know, I wake up every morning, I have my meditation, I see where I want to be, I visualize that image. You know, I write, I start my gratitude statements every morning, reinforcing the person I am, not becoming, but the I am of, you know, my 5D world to bring into my 3D world. But it is a continuous journey and continuous up leveling every day. And every day, though, I see more of that coming into my reality, I guess, if the 3D world is my reality. You know, I think it was said that one day somebody asked Picasso, I think it was Picasso, you know, why he painted such beautiful images, how he did that. And he said, you know, I dream my paintings and then I paint my dream. And I just love that, because I think that that's what we need to do as humans is, you know, dream what you want your life to be and then live that way. You know, if we continue to wait for something in our external world to change before we change something in our internal world, we'll be waiting forever. So I've come to this realization. I study every day, and it's in that studying that you become more aware. And when we become more aware, it builds the faith. And when you have that faith, then you can really have that sense of well-being. And that just, I think, just starts to, you know, raise that frequency and more things. I mean, even yourself, that's how we attracted each other into our lives. You know, there's all these little synchronicities, and we just start becoming more aware and paying attention to them. And that's where I think it just builds the momentum, and it continues to gain acceleration to really become that creative state. As I mentioned, like, we're either disintegrating or creating. I mean, the primary law of vibration, nothing stays the same. So if we're not, you know, going to that place of understanding and faith and well-being, then where we're going is to worry and doubt and fear, all feelings that get suppressed, and they cause anxiety. And they call it depression, which causes the body to break down into disease. And, you know, so many of us unknowingly are making ourselves sick just by the thoughts that we're thinking. So I'm on a journey in changing, in making that change, not only for myself, but in others, inspiring others.
What's been the contrast for you? I mean, you know, particularly, I suppose, low points to high points, because quite often, you know, for people, you know, from great overwhelm does come great change. And I'm curious, when people want to change it, you know, was it a low to high journey for you, or was it a steady realization, and what would you say to incentivize others?
I love this question. I'm so glad you brought it up, because one of my quotes that I say is, you don't have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. And I've been blessed. I didn't have to hit rock bottom before I decided to make a change. And I think many of us do. And, you know, in some ways, I haven't been there, so I can't say with certainty, but I feel like when you feel that there's no way out, then you have nothing to lose, right? You're just like, I'm going for it because frick, I've fallen and I want more. And so I just like give so much love and, you know, I just honor those stories so much, because to get to that point where you had to lose everything to gain is a place that I guess I want to inspire people to realize we don't have to get to make that change. I mean, why wait till we've hit rock bottom? Why wait till we've been faced with a disease or something crippling before we're like, oh, I should wake up now? And yet I believe a lot of us, we don't, because we live this comfortable life. And we only get change by being uncomfortable. So it's almost easier to live in this like comfort zone. But yet this comfort zone is almost this invisible prison that we put on ourselves. And so, you know, for me, I was blessed. Yes, I had, you know, a breakdown in my marriage, and I just realized at that time that my fire was dimming and I wanted it to be back. And I guess I was blessed to have support of my parents, and even like looking in the eyes of my kids to say, like, I want you to be your star, so I got to be my star to be, so you can see that. So I didn't have to totally fall down to get back up. But that's where I really want to help other men and women in realizing is that, you know, a lot of us have come to this certain level of success. And yet we're in our, you know, midlife. Well, what the hell are we going to do for the second half of our lives if we haven't dreamt there? Like, I guess that's what I realized. It's like, you know, everything that I had dreamed of, I had accomplished. I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to have a middle-class life. I wanted to be able to save for my kids' education and be able to retire. Well, knock on wood, if everything was going well, you know, by the time I was 60, 65, whatever. Like, you know, this is my dreams when I was growing up. That's because that's what I knew. And then I found myself in my 40s and I was living that, but yet I still wasn't feeling fulfilled. I mean, I could convince myself, but then I would, you know, do it by, you know, having a drink or, you know, doing something that wasn't constructive for myself. And I've heard too many people, I hope I don't offend anybody in this, but actually I do hope I offend people in this, because I want them to wake up too, is that like so many people during this time, like you said, or when you said, you know, we've had this year and a half to really be able to focus on what's important when we're in the state in the pandemic where we're at. And there's been people that have grabbed hold of their lives and created a new environment for themselves. And then there's other people that have let the news and the social media to control where they are. And instead of becoming more, have, you know, fall trapped to watching Netflix. Like I got to a point where every conversation I was around was either around the pandemic or around the latest Netflix film. And I'm like, I'm not tapping out of my life there. Like, this is not as good as it gets. And now I just like slide all the way down. So that's really when I've grabbed, you know, grab control of my life, to study more and to learn more about myself. And I realize the more I learn about myself, the more I become more aware of what lies infinite potential in ourselves, the more I realize that I control my external world, and I want to share that with others and help others. And so that's what I mean. I'm like, just because we've achieved this doesn't mean that we can achieve more. We just haven't dreamt more. But when we recognize that, when we open our minds to the possibility of more, we can become more. So why wait till we're in a a state where our backs against the wall, so to speak, before we make change? Why not make it when we can still feel optimistic, when we do, believe in more? All we're missing is the understanding and awareness, and that we can get by reaching out to people like yourself and me. We'll share that message with people.
Do people get you?
Not always. It's so funny because, I think those, they can get me, but it is, do you want to look at the world in a different way? Or are you closed-minded to say that, no, this is the only way it works? And, it's because that's the way I've been brought up to believing. And so those that have an open mind and dare to dream, they get me. Those that even maybe are nervous about it because they don't know where or how to do that, I like to believe that they get me because they see that I believe in them. And, you may not have the belief in yourself, but if somebody believes in you, then I say, they borrow my belief in you until you develop it enough yourself. And then we can grow. But I think that if people just, dared to try, and you even try, Yoda, you either do or you don't, but, just to open yourself up that there might be other ways, that there might be other options out there, then I think that they do get me. But I don't know. I'd have to ask them more so. Probably 50-50. But truthfully, I think that the only thing that stops them from doing it is because they're afraid. They're afraid that, like, well, Stacey, what if we bite into this? What if I do believe that I'm filled with infinite potential? What if I do believe I'm worthy of all I desire, but I don't get it? Then what? And it's like, you know what? Just stop thinking of why you can't, and start thinking of all the reasons why you can, and live there. Catch yourself. One of the exercises I had with some of my clients last week was, I want you to recognize every time you have a negative thought. Just recognize it. And when you recognize it, switch. And then let me know next week, how many times you're able to catch yourself. But I don't want you coming to me saying, Stacey, I'm horrible. I caught myself thinking negatively, 234 times. Instead, I want you to say, Stacey, I gave myself 234 opportunities to be happy last week that I wouldn't have given myself in other weeks. So it's just all in that perception, and it's a challenge because we've all been conditioned to think that way, but we need to change that. And when we can change that, like I said, the world just opens up to new possibilities. So I don't know. Tell me, Mighty Pete, do you get me?
It doesn't matter, does it?
No, at the end of the day, it's that I'm living my truth and I believe it. And I know that those that want to live their truth will get it too.
What would you love to say that you don't often get to say, or you have to be mindful of what people think, or to coax people along? What's the things that sort of inside you, because people are quite often they're kept politically correct, or they don't want to bombard people or whatever. What deep down do you sort of, what's the rhythm of your beat, I suppose, is maybe the best way of asking it.
I just want people and myself to feel comfortable in being who we are, and in recognizing that, our uniqueness is our superpower, that to live a fulfilled life isn't about copying somebody else's, but in really forging your own. And that if you can see it, you can be it. And that in itself potentially could be controversial to conceive, believe, and achieve. You know, it doesn't come without action. It's not like the law of attraction is that you just wish something and it'll happen. But when you can wish and believe and live there, and then take action every day, one step closer, 1% better. I think you probably heard it's like 365% better in a year. So, you know, just continue to move forward, then you really are living a fulfilled life. To stop focusing on what we don't have and start appreciating what we do have. And when we start appreciating and seeing the good in our life, more good will come. And I just believe that full-heartedly and want to live my life that way. And I'm done trying to please everybody else. You know, I'm going to protect my mind. If a thought comes in, doesn't mean it's true. If it doesn't suit me, I have the ability to reject it. And I'm going to be more aware and conscious of those thoughts that I'm letting in and what I'm falling in love with. Because if it doesn't propel me, if it doesn't make me feel good, then there will be no more energy placed there. And that is hard. I would be lying if I told you that I'm there all the time, because we're humans and you can't, but it's how long you allow yourself to stay there. So you recognize and you pivot, you recognize and you pivot. And the more you pivot, the easier it becomes.
In this process, I mean, have you know, can you identify with your people? I mean, the niche and who you're going to serve best, you know, and do you think there's going to be a crossover from your past life, if you like, you know, your corporate career and what you were doing there to what you are doing now? I mean, what's your take on it? Where is your niche?
You know, I you know, because I want to help other single parents to realizing, I mean, I just think that we wear so many hats every day and we try to be so much for everyone else that we forget about being the best for ourselves. So, you know, my niche is really helping people who feel like they have to be everything for everyone else, and recognizing that who they need to be is their best self for them. And in doing that, they will be the best for everyone else. And, you know, initially, I thought that was in serving women, and I still believe that. But I also believe that my niche is also men who also have taken on a role in becoming everything for everyone else and not for themselves, in feeling that they have to live up to these expectations of society, and, you know, and yet don't feel fulfilled or happy at night. You know, so often a lot of this attention does go to us women in because we tend to be more the emotional ones, so more connected to those feelings. But I really believe that there's no difference between the men and the women that feel this. We are individuals. We're from one, you know, universal mind. So to helping men as well as women recognize that, break through those limiting beliefs that you have and trying to please everybody or to live into what you deem society tells you to be, because you will only become that happy, fulfilled, joyful place. I believe everybody wants to be happier, right? I mean, people want increased health, increased wealth, increased joyful and fulfillment. And we get that from when we stop being what everybody else wants us to be and we start being who we are. And so that's what I want to help people with in recognizing and realizing. And that, it's funny for me because we would give our kids a coach in sport. We would, even myself, I have a coach when I go to the gym, but then we almost feel that if we're asking for help in life that we've failed, and that's not true. Like, just stop that thought and realize that a coach can help you see things that you can't see within yourselves. So we can help guide you. I mean, because at the end of the day, the person has all the answers. But if they had all the answers and were living it, they would be living the life that they want. So if you have a gap between what you know and what you do, then, reach out to someone like myself who has that ability to have increased awareness and understanding of what you need to do to uncover the layers, to unmask the truth of who you are at your essence, right? And that when you say yes to yourself and yes to having a coach in your corner, then you are successful in that moment because you took the first step in realizing a goal. And your goal was to achieve more and to feel more happiness. And we can help with that. So I just, I want to break the stigma that you need to do it all on your own. I mean, reality is we are creative beings and we collaborate and create with each other. So, get somebody in your corner that has this knowledge and understanding of living a different way and, working with universal laws, maximizing the power of your mind through using your mental faculties, the importance of goal setting, and really having someone to help hold you accountable in achieving that. Because like I said, the equation for change is simple, but it can be a challenge to stay committed and dedicated to that. And that's really where a coach is so beneficial. It helps hold you accountable and on track in becoming the best you can be.
Where do you find yourself in your best state, your flow state, if you like? I mean, are you naturally, is it out there in public? I think we've certainly seen a side today, which is beautiful, and getting it out there. Or where is your natural habitat, if you like?
I'm full of energy. So I love like moving and dancing and shaking and speaking on stages and empowering people to just, be themselves. For me, fitness. So I really believe in the mind and the body, that I believe one of the reasons why I was able to keep a positive outlook in life, even when I didn't understand or have the tools in knowing, how the mind works, is that I had an outlet of fitness always. And, that was like my therapy, was going for a run or swimming or something like that and getting my heart rate up. And, but what I've realized through my study is that that's because that I had that in my self-image, that I've always defined myself by, a level of fitness. So what was missing was me having that image in all areas of my life. Like I remember, like, I'd rather die than stop running, right? Or something. But that's where we need to get with our goals. It's like, I know it sounds weird, but like, we're trading our life every day by not doing what we want. So when someone says like, are you willing to die for your goal? It's almost like easy. But really, we're doing that every day by not living it. So where I feel my best habitat is in sharing and being with people. People give me energy. I feed off it. And I just love hugs. So this is killing me that we can't be done. But it is really just like trying to inspire and empower everybody. And so, although my kids, I'm very blessed. I get my hugs every morning from them. And now I know that they have that too, because every night they're like, Mom, I need my massage. But it's in that touch, right? And that just that connection with people, and however you get it, is really my habitat, is being in a place where I can get connection with people.
What's the nicest compliment or the nicest thing someone could say about you or to you?
The nicest compliment is that, I inspired them to believe in themselves, that, that they were able to see themselves in a different light by the way that, I helped to make them feel. I think it's so important that we all live our lives with leaving people with a lasting impression, that, we make the effort to smile to people, to realize that we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, or why somebody seems more agitated than another. And that when we react to that, that might just be propelling something. So really helping someone have an easier day is one of the best compliments and my reasons of being.
Mm.
But I would encourage everybody to do exactly that, is like leave the people you meet feeling better about themselves. Compliment the people you meet in a new way. Everybody appreciates feeling special. So that's what I really try to do, is leave people feeling better than they did before.
That's beautiful. I mean, it's a lovely way of looking at it, I suppose, is that impression of increase, right? That sort of more and more every day. And as you say, it's, what else are you going to do? Are you going to be slowly dying, or are you going to be choosing to do something special?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it like that, it's just like, again, I've studied a lot with Bob Proctor, and, Bob's 86 years old, and he lives each day still to the fullest. And, he's had over 60 years in the professional development world, and yet recognizes that we hasn't achieved that yet. And, I aspire that. I aspire to be that I'm not defined by my age. I'm not defined by what I should be doing, but I define me. And I continue to create because I recognize these universal laws, and we work with them. And the more we can work in harmony with the universal laws, then the more fulfillment we can get in our lives. And as I mentioned, everybody wants more fulfillment, whether they're willing to admit it or not. But who wants to feel crappy in life? Like, it's not good. And if they have, it's only because, they just don't see any way out. But I guess that's one of my final messages I want to leave people with, is that there is a way out. You don't have to live each day feeling unfulfilled or not feeling worthy. And yes, it's a journey in becoming. But the more that you focus on what you don't have, the more you focus on the sadness that you have, that will just keep you stuck. So, reach out for help, and let's get you moving in the direction of what you want. Now, you may say, I don't know what you want. Well, you know what you don't want, and that's to continue living like this. So even that is an admission of it. There's a story of, a man who had nothing. He was living on a park bench, and in that moment, he decided that he wanted to become more. Well, he became successful that day when he made a decision to become more. Didn't have to wait till he achieved it. He made the decision and became more or successful the moment he decided it. So success is really the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what is your ideal? And what are you willing to risk for your life in not achieving that? Because you're not staying the same. So we're either going to be moving towards what we want, or just kind of falling back and drifting, so to speak. But take control of you and take control of your life to create the life you want.
How will you know when you've reached it, or have you reached it?
No, I haven't reached it. But I think it is just in realizing that regardless of where we're at, regardless of the wealth, the status, the health that we have, there's always more. And it's better is a good word. And so, for me, my dream is, financial freedom, and the fact that I can give to others in the way that I'd want to. My one goal, where I guess I've, when I mentioned that and I should put this out there. I'm going to put this out there because if anybody wants to collaborate with me, please reach out. The one goal that I've always had for myself and my girls was to take them to a country where there was less privileged children and help them to build a school or, bring water to a community. I've always wanted to do that and help my children to, understand that there's so much more to life than what we even experience. And it's really in the giving where we receive. And so my kids are now 13 and 10. And I said, by the time that they're 16 and 13, we're going to go spend a summer somewhere. So I really want to get involved in those types of projects and making that influential change on children that, maybe their environment isn't conducive to knowing some of this stuff, that we can go and share this message and to continue to build and lift people around the world so that we can really create I know it seems audacious, but a world where people do understand and they are open to other things. My fear right now is that when people aren't aware of what they're thinking, we're so subjective to what we hear in social media and the news that we almost are becoming more polarized in our ways of thinking. And we become more closed-minded. So we become more argumentative with each other, and we only see a right and a wrong versus, kind of a frequency of truth or different waves of truth, because there's so much variability in that truth. And so I want to help people to realize that we need to take control of our thoughts and be really careful of what it is that we're listening to and letting seep into our minds, because there's always more than one perspective and perception. And so continue to keep that open-mindedness so that we can get more harmony and collaboration and creativity with each other. I mean, it's not about competing. Competing comes from a place of lack, but we're really around collaboration and cooperation, which is really going to propel our generation and future generations, forward into creating a world that I'm sure we all want for our kids, which is one of harmony and peace and understanding. So I just really want to share this message with people so we understand that we really need to think and come from a place of open-mindedness and understanding and empathy so that we can create a better world. It's really what I love and care about.
How do you learn? What's your learning style?
My learning style? My learning style is really through action, but also through reading and repetition. Prior to personal development, I would only ever read a book once and throw it away. Where now, and you saw my book back here. I guess one of the main books that kick it all off is Think and Grow Rich, is the importance of reading a book numerous times, because you see things in it that you didn't see before because you're more of a person itself. So it's like the more aware you become, the more deeper you can go into certain books and certain things. And I do like taking it back into, the great thought leaders. Love reading Neville Goddard's, all of these types of books. Earl Nightingale's with The Strangest Secret, The Power of Awareness is incredible, Neville Goddard's, but Your Invisible Power. And when you start to realize this and you go back into like centuries ago when people were writing back then, you'll see that like this truth has always been there. That this you control and you should create your external world, that you are spirit, right? And whether you're a theologist or a scientist, we all believe thoughts become things. And whether, it doesn't matter what you coin it, it's energy. So call it God, call it spirit, call it whatever faith you believe in, it all acts the same. And it's wanting us to be, do, and have more. And so that's really what I love to do, and the journey I'm on. Sorry, I kind of got distracted there on that, but it really is. My learning style is about, the more I read, then the more I become aware, and then I want to apply it. But I also realize now that it's only through repetition that I can really reprogram how I think. And it was repetition that created my paradigms and my beliefs. As when I was a young kid, everything that, I didn't have a conscious mind, I didn't have the ability to think. So everything around me was just pouring into my subconscious mind, and it was creating my beliefs. And so it's only through repetition that I can reprogram them. And we got to think of our mind like a garden. It's not biased. Whatever we plant in it will grow. So if we plant negative, grow negative. Plant good, grow good. But we just, through repetition, need to learn and to adapt our new way of thinking if we want to change our results in life.
Makes sense. I mean, where do you sit now? I mean, do you like yourself? Do you love yourself?
Yes, I like myself. I love myself. I mean, we should all love ourselves, because again, we have to come from that fulfillment. I mean, are there times where I question myself, or I don't feel as worthy as I should? Yes. I mean, yes, there is. There's places where I'm insecure, but it's now about understanding where that insecurity comes from and changing that. And to realize that to be loved, I have to love myself. For people that want to feel love, well, make a choice to love yourself. If you want more, whatever, be it. So I'm learning, Pete, that in order for me to be my best self, I have to first love myself. And that comes with all the flaws as well as the gifts. And that, we're always our harshest critic. But if we continue to put ourselves down like that, then we can't become who we're supposed to be. So embrace that. And again, stop playing the record of the past. Just because you acted in a certain way, just because you did something that maybe you don't love about yourself, doesn't need to define you. You choose how we want to live. I choose who I want to live. So I need to create that person and live from that person and let go of all the other things that no longer serve me. And reinforce that, visualize it, look in the mirror, be like, I am worthy, I am inspiring, I deserve what I desire. And, I encourage all of us to do that, because we all deserve what we desire. We are all magnificent. We were born a perfection. It was only through conditioning that we've thought differently, and it's time to release those thoughts.
I mean, what's a bit of a guilty pleasure for you? You can take out the guilt if you wish. What's the pleasure?
Oh, what do I love to do for fun? Well, I love a good bottle of wine.
What's your go-to? Red or white?
Red, has to be red. I mean, I feel like that was something that I had to learn to do. And in fact, that's why I tell people, I started drinking white wine, and then one time I was told, drink this red, and it was painful to drink it the first time. But the more I drank it, the more I loved it. This is just like personal development. So, and you acquire a taste for it. You just all of a sudden, you never even look back at that. You can't draw, or connect the dots looking forward, only looking behind. So create those future memories, live from there and start being. But a guilty pleasure would definitely be, some good, I love wine, cheese, bread, all that good stuff. And then ultimately over with good conversation and probably some fire, well, ocean. I mean, if I'm really visualizing, that's where I'm living, is on an ocean with a magnificent sky. In fact, I saw the most beautiful moon last night. And it actually reminded me of something. I was driving to get groceries. It was late. but I saw this moon out and it was beautiful. And I was like, oh, I'm only going to be grocery shopping for 15 minutes. I'll get a picture on the way back. And when I came back, the moon was down below the horizon. I could just barely see it. I couldn't take a picture of it. And it reminded me to never take things for granted or a moment. And if you want to seize a moment, do exactly that. Seize that moment. Because, you know, in hindsight, I should have stopped the car when I did and took the picture then. Because, you know, tonight I'm hoping it'll be back there. But, you know, really seize those moments, live in the now, and create from that place. If you have, listen to that intuition. If it's telling you to go left, go left. If it's telling you to try something new, try something new. If it's telling you to stop and take a picture of the moon, stop and take a picture of the moon. Because there's no guarantee that it'll be like that forever or we'll be there again.
It's not a beautiful reflection to, you know, to realize that sometimes, you know, good things don't happen so that great can. You know, you've now reflected and saying, next time, just stop the car, just take the photo, you know,
Exactly.
it's like, so it's a great lesson no matter what, isn't it? Even the stuff that didn't go well, it can teach you as much, right?
Totally true. I mean, just appreciate everything for where you are, when it is, and in that moment, you know, I don't know if I want to go through this, but it was like, you know, there's that lesson around the hourglass, and why I have the hourglass here is to remind myself of the present moment, and that, you know, we can't do anything with the sand that's fallen. It's the past. So stop focusing on the past. And when you look at the hourglass as a representation of our lives, you know, different than the hourglass for our lives, we don't know how much sand we have on the top. And so often we may think that there's a lot of sand left, but really that's not a guarantee. So if we can't change anything about the past, and we don't know what we have for our future, the only thing that we truly have is like right in between here in this present moment. So live there. And, you know, it is just kind of that reflection of stop and just appreciate what we have now. And it seems so obvious, but it's a challenge sometimes to put into play. But when you really can grasp that and live your life from that place, I think that's really truly when you find that ultimate fulfillment, because each moment you're creating and feeling joy. You're not waiting or you're not wishing. You just are.
Well, if you were to try and describe your fire in the belly in 1 or 2 words, what would they be?
Elevate and amplify. I mean, just look at things as having that passion and just really amplify. I mean, life is here for the taking, and start seizing those moments. So I guess maybe that's it. Seize the moment. And in doing so, you'll really amplify and elevate yourself.
Way more than 3 words, but we'll let you away with that.
Of course. You know, after talking to me for an hour and a half, that was going to be very difficult. I felt that was pretty good within 10.
Yeah, no, we'll let you away with it. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Grateful for it.
Tell me, where can people follow you, learn more, hunt you down, track you down, stalk you, any of the above?
Yeah.
Be of service?
You know, sure. I mean, I'm on Instagram at Stacey Vanthuyne, and or at Raise Your Results. I really have coined kind of raise your thinking, raise your results, you know. Also on Facebook at Raise Your Results or Stacey Vanthuyne. My website is raiseyourresults.ca. But really, if you're looking to create permanent change in your life, then I would love for you to book a one-on-one discovery call with me, and really, you know, so you can learn more about, you know, what I have to offer if it fits you, but really so that you can start discovering more about yourself. So you can book a meeting, a discovery call with me anytime on Linktree, but the link is in my Instagram page. But I just really encourage people to dream again, and to recognize that our current circumstances or our past don't have to determine our future unless we let it. So we have the power. And if you're not sure how to get there, I would love to hear from you and help you in achieving, more fulfillment, more joy, to amplify and elevate, to seize the moment.
Is there a final message you'd like to leave with our guests?
I think it's just make your life glow. You were here to make a dent too, and in whatever impact that is, whether it's within your own work, your family, your friends. And so, believe in yourself, know that you are worthy, regardless of whatever you've been told in the past. Just because you've had those thoughts, it doesn't make them true. There's more to the world than what we can see, and you're the creator of your life. So if you're not feeling fulfilled, or you crave more and want more, then listen to that intuition and take a chance on you, because you're worth it. You're absolutely worth it.
Wow. Stacey Vanthuyne, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I thank you. I honor you for your really everything you've shared, and your beautiful life and the things that are coming up and the service that you're giving and will always give. So I thank you for that, and I wish you all the best.
Mighty Pete, I thank you for sharing your messages with people and helping people realize that fire in the belly is there for a reason, and to share their passion with others. And in sharing with others, you'll probably ignite it in others. And that's just super inspiring. So I thank you, and grateful for all you do too.
Thank you so much.
Okay, much love.